the last topic of the day. And I don't know if you're aware of this, Tom, but today is Overreach Day. And Overreach is lots and lots of data, lots and lots of analysis that identify all the countries around the world. And it looks at the balance sheet. The balance sheet, on the one hand, is what do they take from the environment, and the other part of the balance sheet is what they give back. And ideally, any balance sheet would be, in this instance, you've reached the 31st of December, and you've at least given back as much as you've taken. But sadly, in almost all countries, this is not the case. I mean, we do have a particular country or an island that gets the 27th of December, or the 29th of December, whichever one it is, but very, very close. But the UK is May, China is June, the US is before the UK, I think it's in April or March. And as we shall see now, from this particular article that was published earlier, it's an extremely important day to have, just, I think, in terms of awareness. So please go on the site, everybody, and read it. But just look at the list. And I'll just actually read a couple of paragraphs above. If we cut food waste in half worldwide, we could delay Earth Overshoot Day by 13 days. We could push it back a further 13 days by cutting our global footprint from driving by 50%, assuming 1/3 of our car miles are replaced by public transport and the rest by biking and walking. Deploying commercial technologies for buildings, industrial processes, and electricity production, which already exist, are ready to go, could postpone Earth Overshoot Day at least 21 days without any loss in productivity or comfort, according to their analysis. So yet again, we have an article here that offers solutions. And obviously, I'll let the readers go down through the list for themselves and find out, where different countries sit, and think about, concern themselves with why it is that those specific countries overshoot very, very, very early in the year, and why others manage to get towards the end of the year in terms of what they're offering the environment holistically. But it's a fascinating article, but it's not the reason that we're talking about it today. The reason we're talking about it today primarily is because we want people to be aware that there is an overreach, an overshoot day, that we are taking now more from the environment than we are giving back. And this will only get worse unless we change our behaviors. And even within our lifetime, even those people in their 40s, 50s, or 60s will possibly be still around when the impact becomes extremely significant, extremely visible. And so it's not just their children, it's not just their grandchildren. If they profess to care about those people, they will also be at the vanguard, pushing and saying, I've got much longer to live, there's nothing I can do about it. They'll be saying the complete opposite, because they'll be saying to their children and their grandchildren and then even their great-grandchildren, we must all unite and work together to try and shift that balance sheet back in favor of the climate, back in favor of the environment, back in favor of biodiversity, so that it's not a case of the species living longer, it's a case of the species being able to survive on a day-to-day basis. I mean, another prediction that came out this morning, Tom, is that if we don't do anything, we are going to have to get used to the British summers being, on average, 40 degrees centigrade. But that is, there's people who go abroad seeking those temperatures, but even they have enough, want to go inside to their air-conditioned hotel rooms, want to keep jumping in the pools to cool down. We haven't got those facilities here. And look at the amount of fossil fuels that are used for air conditioning.
Yeah.
The country is going to end up turning in on itself in order to respond to the symptoms of what we've already constructed. In other words, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and in a very short space of time. So I think, Overreach Day is absolutely vital that people take this seriously and share the article we've seen, or share the article from other sources. Get the information out there and start in the communities to start thinking about seriously what we can do now.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating article, and people see that there were some other solutions that would help, that would delay overreach day in each country. There were some other good examples, practical things steps that could be taken. Scroll down the list of countries is fascinating to see, but of course, we're pretty much all across the whole world. We're pretty much all overshooting, taking more from the environment than we give. The balance sheet runs out halfway through the year or less for so many countries. You point out there that there was the US on the list, in the spring, then the UK. China was actually, I think, in June, which is interesting because people sort of say, oh, China are the worst. There's no point of us taking measures when China aren't. They were lower down the list than the US and the UK. But it's not really a case of pointing the blame. It's about doing every country doing what they can do, both individually and jointly together. And it's so clear now that action has to be taken, really serious action, really urgently, and primarily to cut fossil fuels. And one of the other things is, pressure has to be brought to bear on Bolsonaro in Brazil and what's happening with the Amazon rainforest. I read last week that the Amazon rainforest has now reached a tipping point where more CO2, more carbon dioxide, is produced within the boundaries of the Amazon rainforest by industrialization under Bolsonaro predominantly, than is taken from the atmosphere by the huge forest. Obviously, trees take carbon dioxide, harmful to the environment, contributes to global warming. The leaves take it from the air and kind of through photosynthesis turns it into oxygen. So takes harmful carbon dioxide, creates the oxygen we need. So the Amazon rainforest is described as the lungs of the world, crucial, critical for our survival, and just being sold off and destroyed under the Bolsonaro, far right, psychopathic government in Brazil. Not to mention all the indigenous tribes and people who are displaced and killed to make way for the industrialization. So it's being, sold off, trees felled in their millions to grow crops, to create cattle ranches, and for the woods, for logging. All of that is just literally destroying the Amazon, the lungs of the world. And now, as a whole, more CO2 is created in the region than absorbed by the trees. That's a terrible, terrible tipping point for the world. We have to do something about that urgently.
Yeah, and that's the powerful message to finish off with. We have to do something about that urgently. All of us united. Don't let our governments pull the wool over our eyes. Start to inform yourselves. Knowledge is power. And if you don't like your government, kick them out. If you don't like any of the parties that are representing you, don't vote and do your own thing. And I'm not suggesting anarchy and chaos. I'm suggesting the planet will only survive if we respond radically and dramatically. So that will mean adopting behavior types, I think, that we probably wouldn't have contemplated even a decade ago. Anyway, end of the other week, end of a very informative, quite serious in places, and I'm hoping the viewers have really enjoyed the experience. And I also hope that they, as I said before at the beginning of the show, that they'll click on subscribe, share the videos around to their friends and families, get it out there as well. Because, if you want to be informed, you can either be informed through the billionaire corporate media, or you can be informed by people who perhaps take life a little bit more seriously, like us too, Tom, but in their best interests.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also a 10x6 Facebook page now where we post all the videos. We post the sort of omnibus episodes of the 6 topics, but we also post the individual segments, so you can pick and choose which topics you're interested in to have a watch. So join our 10x6 Facebook page too.
Brilliant.
All right, Jace. Well, lovely to see you. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Have a good, yeah.